Commander Park Ji-won floated in the main control room of the starship Silent Thunder, watching the stars move past the big window like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. The ship moved through space so quietly that he could barely feel it moving at all. Just the gentle hum of the engines and the soft breathing of his team members who were checking their equipment one last time. His 12-man team was the best that Earth had to offer. Each soldier had been picked from thousands of volunteers who wanted to protect humanity on this important mission. Kim Dae-ho sat near the weapons locker, cleaning his tools for the 100th time since they left Earth. He was only 25 years old, but already known as the best demolitions expert in the entire human space force. His hands moved with perfect skill as he checked each piece of equipment, making sure everything was ready. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho was at the observation deck, looking through his sniper scope at the distant stars. He had never missed a target in 7 years of service, and his calm, steady breathing never changed, even in the most dangerous situations. The other soldiers joked that Min-ho could hit a coin from a mile away in a storm, but he just smiled and kept practicing his aim every single day. Sergeant Lee Hyun-woo was in the medical bay, organizing his supplies and checking the emergency equipment. He had joined the military after his wife died in an accident, wanting to save other people from the same pain he felt. His gentle hands had saved more lives than anyone could count, and every soldier on Earth knew his name. The medical bag next to him was packed with everything needed to treat injuries from both humans and aliens. The other 9 soldiers were scattered around the ship doing their own jobs, but all of them shared the same feeling of excitement mixed with nervousness. They were about to meet aliens for the first time in human history and represent their entire planet, in front of beings from across the galaxy. Some of them came from poor families and had never imagined they would travel to the stars. Others had been soldiers for many years. But this mission was different from anything they had done before. Park Ji-won looked at the mission briefing on his tablet. For what felt like the 1,000th time, the Galactic Empire had sent a message to Earth 3 months ago requesting a meeting with human leaders. The message had been translated by the best scientists on Earth and seemed friendly and welcoming. The aliens wanted to discuss bringing humanity into their great alliance of peaceful species that had been working together for thousands of years. Captain Nam Tae-hyun called out from the pilot seat that they would reach the meeting point in 2 hours. His voice was relaxed and happy because this was the kind of mission he had always dreamed of. As a young boy, he had looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there among the stars. Now, at 40 years old, he was flying a human ship to meet with aliens who ruled most of the galaxy. Ambassador Yoon Soo-jin was in her private room, preparing the speech she would give to the Alien Council. She had spent her whole life learning languages and studying diplomacy, hoping for a chance like this. Her room was filled with books about alien cultures that human scientists had pieced together from radio signals and deep space observations. Everything they knew suggested that the Galactic Empire was peaceful and fair to all member species. The ship passed by a beautiful red giant star that lit up the control room with warm light. Park Ji-won remembered his training back on Earth, where instructors had told them that this mission could change human history forever. If the meeting went well, Earth would gain access to alien technology that could solve problems like hunger disease and pollution. If it went badly, humanity might remain alone in the galaxy for many more years. Kim Dae-ho finished checking his equipment and walked over to join his commander at the big window. He had grown up in a small village where his family farmed rice and raised chickens. The idea that he was now traveling between stars still felt like a dream. To him, his parents had cried with joy when he told them about the mission, and his little sister had made him promise to bring back a picture of the aliens. The soldiers talked quietly among themselves about what they thought the aliens would look like, some imagined creatures with big eyes and green skin, like in old movies. Others thought they might look almost human, but taller or shorter. The truth was that nobody on Earth really knew, because the aliens had never sent pictures of themselves. They had only sent radio messages in mathematical language that human scientists could understand. Lee Hyun-woo joined the group at the window and told them about his new daughter, who had been born just 2 weeks before the mission started. He carried a small photo of her in his uniform pocket and showed it to anyone who would look. The baby had tiny hands and dark hair, just like her mother. Lee promised himself that he would make the galaxy safer for her generation by helping with this peaceful mission. Choi Minho put down his rifle and walked over from the observation deck. He rarely spoke, but when he did, everyone listened carefully. He told the group that his grandfather had fought in Earth wars many years ago and always said that talking was better than fighting. His grandfather had taught him to shoot, but also taught him that the best victory was when nobody had to get hurt. The ship computer announced that they were now entering the Kepler system where the meeting would take place. Everyone gathered around the main screen to watch as alien ships appeared on their sensors. The vessels were huge, much larger than anything humans had ever built, and they glowed with strange lights that pulsed like heartbeats. There were dozens of them arranged in perfect formation, waiting for the human ship to arrive. Park Ji-won felt his heart beating faster as he looked at the alien fleet. These beings had technology that was thousands of years ahead of human science. Their ships could travel between stars in days while human ships took months. They had weapons that could destroy planets and shields that could stop any attack, yet they had invited humanity to join them as equals in their galactic alliance. Ambassador Yoon came to the control room wearing her best diplomatic uniform. She looked calm and confident, but Park Ji-won could see the excitement in her eyes. This was the moment she had trained her whole life for, the woman who would speak for all of humanity when she met with beings from across the galaxy. She carried a small flag from Earth and gifts that represented the best of human culture. The alien ships were so beautiful that some of the soldiers just stared at them without saying anything. The vessels seemed to be made of crystal and metal that reflected starlight in rainbow colors. Some were shaped like flowers, while others looked like geometric puzzles that hurt to look at for too long. Captain Nam said he had never seen anything so amazing. In 15 years of flying through space, as they got closer to the meeting point, Park Ji-won ordered his team to prepare for the diplomatic escort mission. They would stay on their ship while Ambassador Yoon met with the aliens, but they needed to be ready to protect her if anything went wrong. Nobody expected trouble because the aliens had seemed so friendly in their messages, but military training taught them to always be prepared. The Silent Thunder moved slowly toward the largest alien ship, which was the size of a small city. Lights blinked along its hull in patterns that might have been a greeting or just normal ship operations. The human crew watched in wonder as smaller alien vessels moved around them like fish swimming in a school. Everything seemed peaceful and welcoming, just as the messages from Earth had promised. Kim Dae-ho checked his watch and realized that in less than an hour, they would make first contact with an alien civilization. He thought about all the humans back on Earth who were watching news reports and waiting to hear what happened. The whole planet was holding its breath, wondering if this day would bring humanity into a larger community of intelligent beings, or if Earth would remain alone. Among the stars for many more years, the mission that had started as humanity hoped for joining the galactic community was about to begin. Ambassador Yoon Soo-jin stepped through the airlock into the alien ship and felt like she was walking into a dream. The corridors were made of what looked like living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. The walls seemed to pulse gently, like they were breathing, and the air smelled like flowers from a garden she had never visited. Everything was so beautiful that she had to remind herself this was real and not something from a science fiction movie. The alien escort that met her was tall and graceful with skin that looked like it was made of diamonds. Their voice was musical when they spoke, and they seemed genuinely happy to meet the first human ambassador. The creature explained that they were honored to welcome humanity to the galactic community and that this meeting would begin a new age of peace and cooperation between Earth and the thousands of worlds in their empire, back on the Silent Thunder Commander Park. Jiwan watched through the security cameras as Ambassador Yoon was led deeper into the alien ship. Everything seemed to be going perfectly, according to plan. The aliens were being polite and respectful, just like their messages had promised. His team was relaxed but alert, keeping watch over their equipment and monitoring all the communication channels in case they were needed. Kim Dae-ho was playing cards with 3 other soldiers in the recreation area, talking about what they would do when they got back to Earth. He wanted to visit his family farm and help with the harvest season that would be starting soon. The other soldiers laughed and joked about becoming famous for being part of the first peaceful contact with aliens. None of them noticed that the alien ships around them were slowly moving into different positions. Lieutenant Choi Minho was still at his observation post, but now he was watching the alien vessels instead of looking at stars. Through his scope, he could see the details of their hull designs and the strange symbols painted on their sides. The ships were even more impressive up close with technology that seemed like magic compared to human engineering. He made notes about what he saw, thinking it might be useful for Earth scientists to study later. The meeting in the Alien Council chamber was everything Ambassador Yoon had hoped it would be. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that showed moving pictures of stars and planets from across the galaxy. Dozens of different alien species sat around a circular table, each one more amazing than the last. There were beings that looked like walking trees, others that seemed to be made of liquid metal, and some that appeared to be pure energy contained in crystal shells. The leader of the council was the diamond-skinned creature who had escorted her inside. They spoke about the benefits of joining the Galactic Empire, including advanced medical technology that could cure any disease faster than light travel that would let humans explore the entire galaxy, and energy systems that could power Earth for millions of years. The offers seemed too good to be true, but the alien leader spoke with such sincerity that Yoon felt her heart fill with hope for humanity. Future Sergeant Lee Hyun-woo was in the medical bay, checking his equipment one more time, when he noticed something strange on the ship sensors. The alien vessels that had been spread out in a loose formation were now arranged in a perfect circle around the human ship. Their weapons, which had been powered down as a sign of peace, were now showing energy readings that meant they were charging up for battle. He called Commander Park on the internal communication system to report what he was seeing, but got no response. The communication channels that had been working perfectly just minutes before were now filled with static and interference. Lee tried different frequencies, but nothing worked. It was like something was blocking all their signals from getting through to the outside park. Jiwan was starting to feel worried when he could not contact Ambassador Yoon. The video feed from her security camera had gone dark, and all attempts to reach her by radio failed. The alien ship that had seemed so welcoming now felt like a trap that was slowly closing around them. He ordered his team to battle stations, even though he hoped he was wrong about the danger they might be facing. In the council chamber, Ambassador Yoon was beginning to understand that something was very wrong. The alien leader tone had changed from friendly to cold and calculating. They began talking about humanity, history of warfare and violence, pointing to Earth wars and conflicts as evidence that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. The other council members nodded in agreement, as if this conversation had been planned long before she arrived. The diamond-skinned leader stood up and walked around the table as they explained their decision. Humanity had been studied for decades through radio signals, television broadcasts, and deep space observations. The Galactic Empire had concluded that humans were aggressive, unpredictable, and would eventually become a threat to the peaceful order they had maintained for thousands of years. Therefore, humanity had to be eliminated before they could develop better space travel and become dangerous. Yoon tried to argue that humans could change, that they wanted peace and cooperation, but the aliens would not listen. They had already made their decision, and this meeting was not about negotiation. It was about carrying out a sentence that had been passed in secret. The ambassador realized with growing horror that she and her escort team had been lured into a trap, and there was no escape, back on the Silent Thunder. The crew finally understood what was happening when the alien ships opened fire without warning. The first blast shook the entire vessel and sent several soldiers flying across the room. Emergency. Alarms started screaming as the ship shields tried to absorb the massive amounts of energy being directed at them, but human technology was no match for weapons that had been perfected over millennia. Commander Park ordered his team to return fire, but their weapons barely scratched the alien hull armor. The enemy ships were too advanced, too well protected, and too numerous for the small human vessel to fight. Captain Nam tried to escape by firing up the engines, but more alien ships appeared to block every possible escape route. They were completely surrounded with no hope of survival. Kim Dae-ho ran to his demolition equipment, thinking he might be able to damage one of the alien ships if he could get close enough. But another blast from the enemy weapons sent him crashing into a wall. His tools scattered across the floor as the ship shook like it was being torn apart by invisible hands. The young man who had dreamed of seeing the stars was about to die in the cold vacuum of space Choi. Minyo kept firing his rifle through the observation windows, even though he knew it was useless. The sniper, who had never missed a target, could not penetrate the alien armor with his primitive human weapons. He thought about his grandfather, who had taught him that talking was better than fighting. But now he understood that some enemies would never listen to reason. Hyunwoo tried to help the wounded soldiers as the ship systems failed one by one. The medical equipment that could save human lives was powerless against the massive damage being done by alien energy weapons. He held the photo of his newborn daughter and whispered that he was sorry he would never come home to see her grow up. The Silent Thunder was dying and taking humanity, best soldiers with it. Commander Park sent one final message to Earth, warning them about the alien betrayal before the communication system was destroyed. His last words were that humans should never trust the Galactic Empire and should prepare for war. The message was loaded into an escape pod that launched just before the ship exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from several star systems away. Ambassador Yoon watched from the alien council chamber as her escort team was murdered. She screamed and tried to fight the guards who held her. But there was nothing she could do to save the brave soldiers who had died protecting her. The galaxy that had seemed so full of hope and wonder just hours before was now revealed as a place where might made right and peaceful species were eliminated without mercy. The Galactic Empire had made their first and greatest mistake by showing humanity exactly what they were capable of. The escape pod from the Silent Thunder drifted through space for 6 days before Earth sensors found it floating near the edge of the solar system. Inside was the ship black box containing Commander Park's final message and video recordings of the alien attack. The automated systems had kept the precious data safe during its long journey home, carrying the truth about what had really happened at the peaceful meeting. President Shin Youngmin stood at the podium in the World Congress building, looking out at representatives from every nation on Earth. His hands shook slightly as he held the report from the military analysis team. The room was completely silent as people waited to hear news about the diplomatic mission that everyone had hoped would change human history for the better. The president's voice was steady but filled with pain as he told the world that the entire diplomatic team had been murdered by the aliens who had pretended to want peace. Ambassador Yoon Soo-jin was gone. Commander Park Ji-won and his 12 brave soldiers were dead. Captain Nam Tae-hyun, who had flown through space for 15 years, would never return home. The aliens had lied about wanting friendship and had used the meeting to eliminate what they saw as a threat. In living rooms and public squares across Earth, people watched the news in shock and disbelief. Many had stayed up all night waiting for good news about humanity, first contact with galactic civilization. Instead, they learned that the universe was not the peaceful place they had imagined, but a dangerous realm where stronger species destroyed weaker ones without mercy or conscience. Admiral Kang Si-woo sat in his office at Earth Defense Command watching the recovered video from the Silent Thunder over and over again. He saw his soldiers fighting bravely against impossible odds, never giving up even when they knew they were going to die. Their courage in those final moments made him proud to be human, but also filled him with a rage that burned like a star in his chest. The footage showed Kim Dae-ho trying to repair damaged weapon systems while alien energy blasts tore through the ship around him. The young man who had wanted to help his family with the rice harvest died trying to protect his fellow soldiers. Choi Min-ho kept firing his rifle until the observation deck was destroyed. Even though his bullets could not hurt the alien ships, Lee Hun-woo had died while treating wounded teammates. His medical bag still in his hands. Dr. Han Min-jung was called to an emergency meeting at the Global Science Council, where she presented her analysis of everything humans had learned about the Galactic Empire over the past 50 years. Her research revealed a terrifying pattern of behavior. The aliens had done this before destroying entire civilizations that they considered dangerous or unpredictable. The galaxy was littered with dead worlds that had once been home to species who thought they could trust the Empire. The funeral ceremony was held at Arlington National Cemetery with empty coffins representing the heroes who would never come home. Millions of people came to pay their respects to the soldiers who had died trying to bring peace between Earth and the stars. Song Min-ji stood with her young son, holding the folded flag that would have covered her husband's coffin if his body had been recovered. Park, little boy, kept asking when his father would come home from the space mission, not understanding that death was forever. Song tried to explain, but how do you tell a child that his father was murdered by aliens who lied about wanting to be friends? The boy clutched his toy spaceship, the one his father had given him before leaving on the mission, and promised to be a space soldier like Daddy when he grew up. Similar scenes played out in families around the world as people mourned the loss of their heroes and tried to understand how the galaxy had become such a cruel place. The Kim family farm in rural Korea felt empty, without Dae-ho's cheerful voice. Choi grandfather wept for the boy who had learned to shoot, but preferred to talk. Lee wife stared at photos of the husband who would never see his daughter take her first steps. But grief was quickly transforming into something much more dangerous. Cold anger spread through humanity like a virus infecting every heart and mind on the planet. The species that had reached hopefully toward the stars was learning that the universe respected only strength and that peaceful intentions were seen as weakness by those in power. General Oh Jae-hwan called together Earth's greatest minds in secret. Underground bunkers built during the old Cold War scientists. Engineers, military strategists, and philosophers gathered to discuss humanity's response to the alien betrayal. They knew that Earth was facing an enemy with technology thousands of years ahead of human science, but they also knew that humans had advantages the aliens did not understand. The meeting lasted for 3 days and nights as brilliant people from every field shared their knowledge and expertise. Dr. Lim Kyung-soo, who had spent his career working for peace and understanding, was now focused on creating weapons that could hurt beings with God, like technology. Engineer Yang Seung-hwan studied the alien ship designs, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited by inferior human weapons. President Shin signed Executive Order 2157 in a ceremony broadcast to the entire world. The document officially declared that Earth was in a state of war with the Galactic Empire and authorized unlimited resources for military research and production. Every factory, every laboratory, every University and every government agency would now serve one purpose, making the aliens pay for their betrayal. The Order also established the Human Survival Protocol, a classified program that would coordinate Earth response to the galactic threat. Admiral Kang was placed in command of all military operations, while Dr. Han would lead scientific research into alien biology and technology. General O would oversee weapons development, and Captain Baek Jisoo would train new pilots in combat tactics within hours of signing the order. Earth began to change in ways that would have been impossible to imagine just days before. Factories that had made cars and computers started producing spacecraft and weapons. Universities that had taught literature and art began researching alien biology, and space combat children, who had played games about exploring the stars, now learned about fighting wars between planets. The transformation was not just about technology, but about the human spirit itself. The species that had dreamed of joining a galactic community now understood that they were alone in a hostile universe where survival depended on being stronger and more ruthless than their enemies. The aliens had wanted to eliminate humanity before. They became dangerous, but their attack had created the very thing they feared most. Song Minji enrolled in military training despite having never held a weapon in her life. She wanted to learn how to fight the creatures who had murdered her husband and left her son without a father. Millions of other civilians made the same choice, turning Earth's peaceful population into an army that would make the galaxy tremble. The memorial service ended with a promise carved in stone at the base of the monument. Never again. Never forgotten. Never forgiven. The words would remind future generations why humanity had been forced to abandon their dreams of peace and embrace the harsh realities of galactic warfare as Earth mourning period ended and the planet prepared for war. One thing became clear to everyone. The aliens had made their greatest mistake when they showed humanity what they were truly capable of. Now Earth would show them what happened when you attacked a species that had nothing left to lose. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were considered too dangerous to exist and why that assessment had been absolutely correct. 2 years had passed since the massacre, and Earth had become a world that the peaceful diplomats of the past would not recognize. Every continent had been transformed into a massive weapons production facility, with factories working 24 hours a day to build the tools of interstellar war. The skies were dark with the smoke of orbital elevators carrying materials to space-based shipyards where humanity's first true war fleet was taking shape. Dr. Lim Kyung-soo worked in a laboratory, deep underground, where he had spent the last 18 months studying pieces of alien technology recovered from the Silent Thunder wreckage. The man who had once protested military spending and marched for peace now devoted every waking hour to creating weapons that could kill beings with God-like power. His transformation showed how completely the alien attack had changed human society. The breakthrough came when engineer Yang Sung-won discovered something remarkable about the alien ships that had seemed so invincible. For all their advanced technology, the vessels relied entirely on a quantum communication network that connected every ship in their vast fleet. The network allowed instant coordination across the galaxy, but it also created a vulnerability that could be exploited by enemies who understood how it worked. Yang had spent months analyzing the electromagnetic signatures recorded during the attack and found patterns that revealed how the alien communication system functioned. The Empire ships were like parts of a giant brain connected by invisible threads of quantum energy. If those threads could be cut or corrupted, the mighty galactic fleet would become blind and helpless, scattered across the void. Without central command, Captain Baek Jisoo had been chosen to train Earth's new generation of space pilots in combat tactics that the aliens had never encountered. Her own experience came from humanity, early exploration missions when Earth ships had to navigate through asteroid fields and solar storms using nothing but human skill and determination. The tactics she taught were based on centuries of warfare on Earth, adapted for fighting in the vacuum of space. The training facility was built inside a hollowed-out mountain where pilots learned to fly ships designed for war rather than exploration. Human military doctrine emphasized speed, mobility, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. These lessons learned in Earth. Bloodiest conflicts would serve humanity well when they faced an enemy that had never experienced real combat against desperate, determined opponents. Every day brought new volunteers who wanted to learn how to fight the creatures that had murdered. Earth Diplomatic Mission. Song Minji had become one of Bayek's most dedicated students, even though she had never flown anything more complex than a passenger aircraft. Her husband Death had transformed the peaceful teacher into someone willing to master the art of killing aliens who thought humans were too weak to be a threat. The manufacturing effort was unlike anything in human history. Entire nations had converted their economies to support the war effort, with children collecting metal for recycling, while elderly scientists shared their knowledge with younger colleagues who would carry on the fight. The planet that had once been divided by borders and ideologies now stood united by shared purpose and burning desire for revenge underground. Cities were built to house the millions of workers needed to produce spacecraft weapons and equipment on an unprecedented scale. The facilities were hidden deep beneath mountains and ocean floors where alien satellites could not detect them. Earth was becoming a fortress world, preparing for a war that would determine whether humanity survived or joined the countless dead civilizations scattered across the galaxy. Captain Park, Yoonji had volunteered to lead the first strike team despite having no military experience before her brother murder. She had been a kindergarten teacher who spent her days reading stories to children and helping them learn to write their names. The alien attack had turned her into someone who studied tactical manuals and practiced shooting until her hands bled from holding weapons. Millions of people like Yoonji had made the same transformation from peaceful civilians to soldiers in humanity growing army. They came from every walk of life, farmers and factory workers, doctors and artists, students and grandparents, all united by the need to make the aliens pay for what they had done. The diversity of human experience became a strength as people brought different skills and perspectives to the war effort. Dr. Han Min-jong had created a special research division focused on studying alien biology using genetic samples recovered from the attack site. Her team worked to understand how the various species in the Galactic Empire were related and what weaknesses they might share. The research was leading toward weapons that could target specific genetic markers while leaving human DNA unharmed. The space-based shipyards orbiting Earth had grown from small construction platforms into massive industrial complexes that rivaled entire cities. Workers in environmental suits assembled the components of humanity, first true warships designed not for exploration or diplomacy, but for the efficient destruction of alien life. The vessels incorporated lessons learned from studying captured alien technology while maintaining the adaptability that made human engineering unique. Intelligence networks were established throughout the galaxy using automated probes disguised as space debris to gather information about alien patrol routes, ship designs, and communication protocols. The data collected by these spy systems revealed patterns in Empire behavior that could be exploited when the time came for humanity to strike back. Training programs taught Earth soldiers how to fight in zero gravity, how to use alien weapons captured from their enemies, and how to survive in hostile environments across dozens of different planet types. The humans who had once dreamed of exploring the galaxy as tourists were now learning to move through space as predators, hunting the beings who had declared war on their species. Research into alien psychology revealed that the Empire species had grown soft during their long period of dominance. They had not faced a real military threat in thousands of years, and their tactics were designed for fighting other civilized opponents who followed predictable rules of engagement, human warfare, with its emphasis on deception, brutality, and total. Victory would be completely foreign to enemies who expected their conflicts to be polite and limited. The quantum virus project led by Dr. Lim had reached the testing phase using captured alien communication equipment to simulate the Empire network. The digital weapons being developed could spread through the quantum channels like a plague, turning the aliens' greatest strength into their fatal weakness. When activated, the viruses would not just disrupt communications, but actually damage the quantum processors that alien ships relied on for navigation and life support. As the second anniversary of the massacre approached Earth, transformation was complete. The world that had once reached hopefully toward the stars was now the center of a war machine that would shock the galaxy when it finally revealed itself. The aliens had wanted to eliminate humanity before they became dangerous, but their attack had created exactly what they feared most: young people who should have been starting careers and raising families instead, spent their time learning how to kill aliens in the most efficient ways possible. The innocence that had characterized human space exploration was gone forever, replaced by cold calculation and burning desire for revenge that would drive humanity to commit acts their ancestors would have found unthinkable. The memorial ceremonies held on the anniversary were different from the grief-filled services of the previous year. This time, the speakers talked about victory and vengeance, about making the aliens regret ever hearing the word human. The empty coffins were surrounded by displays of the new weapons that would soon carry Earthwrath to every corner of the galaxy. President Shin addressed the planet one final time before the war began, officially telling the world that humanity was ready to show their enemies what happened when a species with nothing left to lose decided to fight for survival. The speech was broadcast not just on Earth but transmitted toward alien space as a warning that the galaxy was about to change forever. The transformation was complete, and Earth was ready to begin the most important war in human history. The aliens had created their own worst nightmare. By attacking a species that refused to accept defeat, the galaxy was about to learn why humans had been considered too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars. Earth revenge began not with massive fleets or dramatic battles, but with shadows moving silently through the darkness between stars. Commander Ryu Dongwook led the first stealth mission aboard a ship designed to be invisible to alien sensors. His team of 12 specialists had spent 6 months learning to think like ghosts, moving through enemy territory without leaving any trace of their presence. The ship Phantom Strike was painted black as space itself and equipped with technology that could bend light around its hull, making it nearly impossible to detect even with the most advanced alien scanning equipment. Ryu team had trained for this mission by infiltrating Earth's most secure military facilities, proving they could move through any defense system without being discovered. Their target was a communication relay station in the Vega system, a critical hub in the alien quantum network that connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The station was lightly defended because the aliens had never imagined that primitive humans could travel so far from Earth or pose any threat to their most important infrastructure. The team moved like professional burglars breaking into the most secure bank in the universe. They disabled automated defenses, reprogrammed security systems, and planted quantum viruses in the main communication processors. The digital weapons created by Dr. Lim were designed to lie dormant for months, spreading slowly through the network until they reached every corner of the Galactic Empire. Similar missions were carried out simultaneously across dozens of star systems as other human stealth teams infiltrated alien facilities with surgical precision. The Empire military had grown complacent after millennia of unchallenged dominance. Their ships patrolled in predictable patterns, their crews confident that no primitive species could threaten their technological superiority. The first phase of humanity plan targeted the Empire outer colonies. remote worlds, defended by automated systems and skeleton crews. These targets were chosen not for their strategic importance, but because they would create maximum confusion when they disappeared without any obvious explanation. The aliens would waste time and resources trying to understand what had happened. Strike teams led by veterans like Major Kim Jin-hyuk hit these targets with clockwork precision, emerging from hyperspace like avenging angels. Their ships appeared without warning, destroyed the alien defenses and vanished again before any distress signals could be sent. The attacks were coordinated to happen within minutes of each other across multiple star systems. What shocked the Empire most was not the attacks themselves, but the complete ruthlessness displayed by the human forces. Unlike the civilized warfare they were accustomed to, humanity fought with the desperate fury of a species facing extinction. Human soldiers showed no mercy to their enemies, no respect for alien concepts of honorable combat, and no willingness to negotiate or accept surrender. The aliens had studied human violence from a distance through television broadcasts and historical records, but they had never experienced it firsthand. The Empire species had evolved beyond such primitive emotions as hatred and revenge, but humans embraced these feelings and used them as weapons against opponents who could not understand such motivation. Captain Park Yoon-ji led one of the assault teams that destroyed an alien research station orbiting a gas giant in the Centauri system. The facility had been studying human DNA samples collected during the massacre, planning biological weapons that could eliminate Earth population. The former kindergarten teacher now commanded soldiers who eliminated every alien in the station without hesitation. The attack patterns revealed something terrifying about human military thinking. The strikes were not random acts of violence, but carefully planned operations, designed to gather intelligence while causing psychological damage to alien morale. Each successful mission provided more information about Empire defenses, capabilities, and weaknesses that could be exploited in future operations. Admiral Jin Soo-young monitored the progress of all strike teams from her command ship, hidden in an asteroid field at the edge of known space. The reports flooding in exceeded even the most optimistic projections. Every mission had succeeded beyond expectations, with alien forces crumbling before enemies they had never expected to face. The Empire military leaders found themselves dealing with an opponent that broke every rule of galactic warfare. The humans used tactics that civilized species considered barbaric, attacking civilian targets using captured alien technology against its creators and showing no distinction between military and non-military personnel. Everything the aliens thought they knew about combat was useless against such an unpredictable enemy. General Oh Jae-hwan had predicted this confusion when he designed the overall strategy. Human warfare had evolved through millions of years of conflict, where survival depended on being more creative, more adaptable, and more ruthless than the competition. The aliens had forgotten these lessons during their long period of peace and prosperity. The second phase began when alien reinforcements started responding to the outer colony attacks. Massive battle fleets converged on the targeted systems exactly as humanity strategists had hoped. This movement left the Empire core worlds lightly defended, as thousands of warships chased human raiders through empty space, where they found nothing but abandoned bases and false sensor readings. Commander Ryu activated the first batch of quantum viruses as alien fleets gathered in the outer systems. The digital weapons had been spreading silently through the Empire communication network for months and were now ready to strike. The viruses attacked the quantum processors that controlled everything from navigation to life support systems, causing alien ships to lose contact with Central Command. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien fleets that had operated as coordinated units for thousands of years suddenly found themselves blind and isolated, unable to communicate with each other or receive orders from headquarters. Individual captains had to make decisions they were not trained for while dealing with equipment failures, caused by the spreading computer plague. Human forces that had been retreating and hiding suddenly turned aggressive as the alien coordination collapsed. Captain Bayek Jisoo led fighter squadrons in hit-and-run attacks against confused enemy formations. Her pilots had trained for exactly this type of combat, using speed and maneuverability to strike at vulnerable targets before disappearing back into space. The aliens' desperate attempts to restore their communication network only made the situation worse. Each time they tried to reboot their systems, the quantum viruses spread to new areas of the network. The digital plague was designed to learn and adapt, becoming more effective as it encountered alien countermeasures. Dr. Lim watched from Earth as his creations brought the mighty Galactic Empire to its knees. The man who had once believed in peaceful solutions now felt satisfaction as reports came in of alien ships crashing into planets because their navigation systems had failed. The universe had taught humanity that violence was the only language that mattered. Song Minji participated in the assault on a major alien shipyard where she piloted one of the new human fighters through defensive systems that had been designed to stop conventional attacks. Her husband murderers were learning what it felt like to be helpless and afraid as their perfect technological civilization crumbled around them. The third phase involved direct attacks on Empire core worlds as human battle. Groups emerged from hiding places where they had waited for months. Earth main fleet under Admiral Jin had been concealed in nebulae and asteroid fields, positioned for maximum surprise when the moment came to strike. The aliens who had dismissed humans as primitive were about to face the full fury of a species that had nothing left to lose. The galaxy that had known peace for millennia was burning as humanity exacted their revenge for the diplomatic massacre. The empire that had casually decided to eliminate Earth was discovering why humans had been considered too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars. Their assessment had been correct, but their timing had been fatally flawed. The counterstrike was succeeding beyond all expectations, but this was only the beginning of what humanity had planned for their enemies. The aliens had wanted to eliminate a potential threat, but instead they had created the very nightmare they feared most, a species with advanced technology, unlimited determination, and absolutely nothing to lose. The final phase of humanity revenge unfolded across the galaxy like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of destruction. As alien fleets found themselves cut off from central command and unable to coordinate their defenses, Earth main battle groups revealed themselves from hiding places where they had waited with infinite patience for this moment. General Park Seong-jin, who had come out of retirement to avenge his son, gave the order that would end the Galactic Empire forever. The biological weapons created by Dr. Han Min-jong were released simultaneously on hundreds of Empire worlds, spreading through alien populations like an unstoppable plague. The weapons had been designed with terrifying precision, targeting the specific genetic markers that connected the various species in the Galactic Alliance while leaving their planets' ecosystems completely intact. The plague was not random or cruel, but surgically precise, eliminating only the beings who had voted to destroy humanity, while preserving the worlds they had inhabited for potential human colonization in the future. It was a weapon that showed both the advanced science Earth had developed and the cold calculation that now drove human decision-making. Captain Bayek Jisoo led the final assault on the Empire capital world, flying at the head of a fleet that represented everything humanity had learned about warfare during their 2-year preparation. The ships were painted with names like Silent Thunder, Revenge, and Never Forgotten, honoring the diplomatic team whose murder had started this war. The capital planet defenses had been designed to repel conventional attacks from other galactic civilizations, but they proved useless against human tactics that emphasized unpredictability and total commitment to victory. Human fighters swarmed through the defensive networks like angry insects, finding weaknesses that the aliens had never imagined could be exploited. Admiral Jin Soo-young coordinated the attack from her flagship while monitoring similar assaults taking place across every major world in the Empire. The aliens had spread their civilization across thousands of planets, thinking that such dispersal would make them invulnerable to any single attack. But humanity had planned for exactly this challenge. The Empire's desperate attempts at surrender began when their leaders realized that their technological superiority meant nothing against enemies who fought with such systematic brutality. Messages were broadcast on all frequencies offering to share their advanced science, to provide reparations for the diplomatic incident, and to recognize Earth as an equal member of the galactic community, but the surrender offers fell on deaf ears. President Shin had authorized the final protocols with the same cold efficiency the aliens had shown when they condemned humanity. There would be no negotiations, no mercy, and no survivors. The galaxy would learn that some crimes could never be forgiven and some enemies could never be trusted again. Song Minji piloted her fighter through the burning skies above the alien capital, thinking about her husband, who would never see their son grow up. The woman who had once taught children to read was now delivering death to beings who thought humans were too primitive to threaten their ancient civilization. Her weapons found their targets with precision, born from months of training and years of burning hatred. The alien ground forces tried to mount a defense, but they had never faced enemies like the humans who landed on their worlds. Human soldiers fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive fury that overwhelmed opponents who expected warfare to follow. Civilized rules and customs, Commander Ryu led urban combat teams through the Empire's greatest cities hunting down alien leaders who had voted for humanity destruction. The beings who had casually decided Earth fate now experienced the terror of being hunted by predators who showed no mercy and accepted no surrender. The quantum virus network had evolved beyond its original programming, spreading through every alien system and causing cascading failures that brought down their entire technological civilization. Power grids, failed life support systems shut down, and transportation networks collapsed as the digital plague consumed everything the Empire had built. Dr. Lim watched from his underground laboratory as reports came in from across the galaxy. His quantum viruses had not only destroyed alien military capabilities, but had also eliminated their ability to maintain the basic infrastructure needed to support advanced civilization. The beings who had lived in luxury for millennia were now dying from the collapse of systems they had taken for granted. Major Kim Jin-hyuk coordinated the systematic elimination of alien research facilities that had been studying ways to destroy Earth. The humans had learned about these secret projects from captured intelligence and made sure that every scientist involved in anti-human research paid the ultimate price for their participation in attempted genocide. The aliens tried to flee to remote colonies and hidden bases, but humanity had spent 2 years mapping every location in their vast empire. There was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide from the species they had underestimated. Human forces appeared wherever aliens gathered, eliminating survivors with mechanical efficiency. Captain Park Yoonji led the assault on the alien council chamber, where the decision to destroy humanity had been made. She personally executed each council member who had voted for Earth elimination, while explaining exactly why they were being killed. The former teacher had become an angel of vengeance, delivering justice for crimes against her entire species. The Empire military forces that had seemed so invincible just months before were now scattered and helpless without central command or functioning. Technology individual alien ships drifted powerless through space as their crews died from life support failures caused by the quantum plague spreading through their systems. Earth biological weapons continued their work across the galaxy, eliminating alien populations with the same systematic thoroughness the Empire had planned to use against humanity. The plague spared no one who carried the genetic markers that identified them as members of the species that had declared war on Earth. The final alien transmission was broadcast from a dying world where the last survivors pleaded for mercy and tried to explain that they had only been following orders from their leaders. But humanity had learned that following orders was not an excuse for attempted genocide. and that some crimes deserved only one punishment. General Park stood on the bridge of his flagship watching as the last alien stronghold fell to human forces. His son had been avenged along with every other member of the diplomatic mission. The boy who had wanted to help with the rice harvest back on Earth could finally rest in peace, knowing that his murderers had paid the ultimate price. The galaxy fell silent as the final alien resistance was crushed, and the last survivors, eliminated worlds that had known peace for millennia, now stood empty monuments to the consequences of underestimating human determination and capacity for revenge. The Galactic Empire that had ruled for thousands of years had been completely erased. In less than 6 months of total war, Admiral Jin sent the final report to Earth confirming that the mission was complete. Every world in the former empire had been sterilized of alien life while remaining suitable for human colonization. The species that had condemned humanity for being too dangerous had discovered exactly how accurate their assessment had been. The victory celebrations on Earth were subdued affairs as people remembered the price that had been paid for this triumph. The innocent diplomatic team that had died believing in the possibility of galactic friendship had been avenged, but their deaths had also transformed humanity into something harder and more ruthless.